Hello, and welcome back to the Borderlands 2 OpenBLCMM modding tutorial. My name is Aaron, and today we're going to be changing the skin of the Herald. So, on the previous video, we went over how to change everything from the title of the gun to the stats of the Herald, but we didn't really go over the material and skin editing for custom guns. Material and skin editing is going to be a relatively deep dive. There is already a web PDF file out there that does go over how to manipulate and edit skins and materials, which I will link in the description below. But needless to say, every material and skin in the game can be changed to whatever you would like it to be. You just have to have an understanding of how to do it. This will be a shorter video as it's only going to cover one topic, but the next tutorial video that I will be covering a bit more in depth. But we'll go ahead, start by making a new folder in our Herald folder, a new category, I'm sorry, and we're just going to call this one Skin. Material and skin editing does take a certain finesse to do. It isn't just a mashup of different colors or numbers. It actually does take a keen eye to be able to change materials and skins to get something you want to look good or look visually pleasing to someone's eye. So let's go ahead and open Object Explorer. Materials are part of a weapon part definition. So you would do a get all weapon part definition. And once it's done loading, we are going to scroll all the way down until we can see something regarding manufacturing materials. The one that we are going to be looking for, we know that it's a Torg weapon, and we know that it's a pistol, so we're going to click on this one here. It's going to be gd_weap_pistol dot manufacture materials dot mat_torg_5_legendary. So we'll go ahead and click on this one. Clicking on it, we see a pretty bare bones object with nothing really in it. Like, there's no weapon parts or weapon attribute effects. There's nothing really here that concerns us immediately. But if you scroll all the way down to this line here, where it says material equals material instance constant, and then it gives us another object here, this object is really what is actually going to make up the material of the Unkempt Herald. If we double click on it, it's going to go ahead and take us to something new. So, the objective for today's video is to change the overall look of the Herald to be more silver, and we are going to make the star on the weapon appear gold instead of white. To break this down, we need to look at each individual property in this material instance constant. Just as an aside, you can do a get all for a material instance constant as well, but it is better if you look for the weapon parts definition and then follow that chain down. Because as you can see here, it takes a very long time to load all of the material instance constants in the game. There are over 10,000 of them, so it's going to be more worth your time to look at weapon part definition and then go from there. Alright, our first parameter here is going to be something called scalar parameter values. Without going into too much detail, these are going to be the quote-unquote final touches that we put on the weapon. We'll see there's a highlights intensity, there's a shadows intensity, a p_decal rotate, replace pattern, use full color decal, and then a replace decal field. Next is going to be the texture parameters, and this includes p_masks, p_diffuse, p_normal scopes emissive, p_simple reflect, p_decal, and a P underscore pattern. These are the actual textures and patterns, and the decals as well, if it is assigned a decal, that actually appear on the weapon. These are very important if you are ever doing your own custom guns, because you are going to be parenting one of these gun material objects, and that will inherit all of the different properties that are in this texture or scalar parameter value field. So you do want to make sure that you are paying attention when you are copying over these types of materials. And then finally, the last value that we have here is going to be vector parameter values. And we have a bunch of entries in this list. Without going into too much detail here, every gun in the game has 3 different shades and 3 different types of color codes that we can use. Guns have an A, B, and C, and they have an appropriate highlight, midtone, and shadow configuration. If you're familiar with Photoshop or GIMP or Krita or any sort of image editing tool, then you may know what highlights, midtones, and shadows are. I do highly recommend taking a look at what all of these different things mean if you are not familiar with them. If you are already familiar with them, great, you may have an idea on how to change some of these then. Recall back to what I said about wanting to make our shiny new Herald look more silver instead of the default black, and making the star on the gun appear more gold instead of white. In order to do this, we are actually not going to be looking at any of the scalar values or the texture parameter values. They are completely fine as they are. We are just interested in the vector parameter values. When you are dealing with colors in Borderlands 2, everything is done in an RGBA format, meaning R is for reds, G is for greens, B is for blues, and A is for the alpha channel, which makes it appear more transparent or more opaque. So, as we can see with this first entry for P underscore A color highlight, it has this R value of 0.212044, has a green value of 0.201096, and the blue value is 0.193972. This gives it a little bit of a dark gray highlight on the gun, which is the main surrounding area of the gun. When we look at this more in detail, you'll understand what I mean. The A color midtone, as we scroll down here, is going to have a red value of 0.086258, green value of 0.086320, and then a blue value of 0.099444. This is going to give the gun in the central portion, like the actual body of the gun itself, is going to have a slightly gunmetal black tint to it. And then finally, if we go to the A color shadow, we can see that this has a red value of 0.192540, has a green value of 0.209937, and a blue value of 0.195075. So this is also going to be kind of a semi-gray tint. Shadows are going to primarily be the active shadows that are on the game. If you have ambient collusion on, or if you have shadows on in the game, these are what's primarily going to be affecting that. Now, these numbers may look a little bit strange to you, and you don't necessarily need to make the numbers as Gearbox made them. And honestly, you shouldn't have to. The rounded up numbers do definitely look better. So how are we going to change this then? Since we're only interested in the vector parameter values, we're going to go back to OpenBLCMM's interface. we're going to go ahead and make a new line of code in our skin folder. So we're going to go ahead and type set. We're going to go back to Object Explorer, copy over this object, go back, paste, and then we are going to grab the first vector parameter values equals, and we are going to drag all the way down. And do bear in mind, this is a very long list, so it is going to take a while for us to get to the bottom of where we need to be. And there we go, we're finally at the bottom. So we're going to copy all of this. It is going to be a lot. And we're going to go ahead and paste. Scroll back up to the top. We're going to get rid of the equal sign here. And then for now, just go ahead and click OK. Save your mod, and we're actually going to load up the game. All right, so taking into account that we know what the RGBA values essentially do, we can surmise that the A color highlight is going to be this spot here. If you can see my cursor on the screen, this is basically what the highlight is going to be. It's the complete outside of the gun all the way to this portion here. The A color highlight is going to be everything along this path here. And so if we're going to change this to a gray, what we need to do is change all of the A color highlights to gray. So we can tab back to our OpenBLCMM interface, and we can go ahead and open this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change these all to 300000. And I'm going to do the same exact thing for all of the A color fields. So highlight, midtone, and shadow. Alright, so all of these are set to 0.3 now. We're going to go ahead and click OK. We're going to hit save. And then the nice thing about modding skins in Borderlands 2 is you can actually just re-execute your mod on this screen, and the changes will go through right away. And as you can see, this little portion here of our highlights has turned into a slightly lighter gray. But this looks kind of crappy. And the reason it looks kind of crappy is because there's this very obtrusive reflect color on this gun that's kind of getting in the way of making our gun look good. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go back here. And then do remember there is a reflect color. There's a reflect color field in this vector parameter. And it is set to a whopping 3.52 for the red value, 3.87 for the green value, and for the blue value, 5.17. So it's kind of giving off a slightly bluish tint with a reflect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change these to 1.100000. And what that will do is it will dramatically decrease the reflecting that is done on the gun. So again, if we save our mod, go back to the game, re-execute it, as you can see, the tint is much lower, or the reflect is much lower than what it was before, and it doesn't look quite as bad on the Herald. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change all of these B color parameters to 0.25. This is actually going to give the gun some more color at its base level. So once I've done that, I will go ahead and get back to you guys. All right, so now all of my B color attributes are set to 0.25. We're going to go ahead and save, and we are going to re-execute our mod. And this portion right here of the gun is considered the B color. So anything regarding the grip and the underbarrel here is technically considered part of the B color. So we're going to go back here, and I'm actually going to change my mind on some of these colors. We're going to make the C colors actually appear a little bit more gold. So in order for us to achieve a gold color, we need to think of what color combination would actually get us to gold. And that would actually be a high amount of red, this field here, a smaller amount of green to make kind of a yellowish, and then a very little blue input. So we're going to change this C color highlight value that I have here to the following values. 1.28, 0000. We're going to make the green 0.45, 0000, and we're going to make the blue color 0.04, 0000. For the C color midtone, we're going to make this a bit of a darker gold. So 0.56, 0000. We're going to do for the green 0.18, 0000. And then for the blue, we're going to do 0.02, 0.0000. For the shadow, let's make the shadows completely black. We're going to go ahead and do 0.03, 0000. What you can do is you can copy and paste these values if you would like. It does save a little bit of time. Then we're going to go ahead and click OK, save our mod, go back to the game, re-execute our mod, and as you can see, kind of all of the plating on the gun, the parts that would kind of, make it metal, have actually turned to this nice gold color here. This turned the grip, portions of the hammer, and the scope outlines all completely gold. So we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and we're actually going to look for a pattern color parameter. So you're probably thinking right now, why isn't the body of the gun really changing even though we've changed these highlights and midtones and shadows to be a little bit lighter? Well, that's because the gun has a pattern on it, and the pattern is what's making it black. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the pattern color to be a little bit more lighter. Right now it's set to 1. We're going to go ahead and change this to 3. Click OK, click Save, tab back to the game, rerun the mod, and as you can see, the portion where the actual barrel of the gun was has turned out to be a little bit more gray. The yellow lines have also kind of brightened up a little bit, so you can actually determine that this stripe pattern is part of the actual pattern that's on the gun, figuratively. And then finally, what we want to do is we want to change the star to gold. To do this, we have to distinguish that the star is part of the decal on the weapon. And if we go back to our vector parameter values here, there is a decal color that does exist for this particular gun. And I did say before that we did want to make this gold. Right now it is appearing white on the gun, so let's go ahead and change that. I have picked out some values here. There will be 1.720000. For the green value, we're going to do 0.880000. And for the blue value, we are going to do 0.150000. Click OK. Click Save. Tab back to the game. Run the mod. And hey, would you look at it? The star is now gold on the Rockstar. And with that, the material editing portion of this video is actually done. So, material editing and texture modding is actually very easy to do in Borderlands 2, but a lot of it is going to be trial and error, especially if you are wanting to make your guns look good. Some people even might say that, this gold yellow on the grip, hammer, and the scope, well, they may not like it, but you may like it. But that's the beauty of modding, is that we can find something good in our own creations. So with that, that is going to conclude this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel to see more videos regarding this tutorial, and ring the bell to be notified when I post one of these new videos. In the next video, we're going to be taking a look at enemies and what makes them function, and we're going to change a very particular mini-boss everyone is quite familiar with to make him a little bit easier. With that, I will catch you all on the next episode, and take care.